Okay, everybody, let's get started. As I said at the sound check, my name's Ross. I'm one of the techs here at Church Windows. Today's topic is going to be going over labels, label layouts, and label design. Um, you can reach the labels section of Church Windows going through either membership or donations. I'm just going to show you membership today. It takes you to the exact same place. They're both under reports. Just most people access them through membership. We click on membership, let that open, reports, and then labels. And our particular topic today is about the actual label design and how people appear on the label. So I'm not going to do anything on this screen. I'm just going to click next, which just tells the system to include everybody on the report. All right. So then we have this screen, which is our step 2 screen. It's where we will the top half here. You can see you have the various label options. You have your label layouts, and this bottom half you have the different people that you can make labels for. The the system has 2 built-in label layouts that comes with when you first install the program. They're both Avery's 5160 labels. One has the family mailing label on it, so that would be like the Mr. and Mrs. Bob Smith or the Smith family, whatever it is you have on the mailing label field in each family's record and membership. And then we also have the 5160 with individual names. This one, as it kind of how it stands, it just has the person's individual name instead of the family record. So instead of saying, the Bob Smith family or Mr. and Mrs. Bob Smith, it'll just say Bob Smith. And the reason we have it, the pre-built our Avery 5160 is it feels about 99% of the people who use labels use either that exact brand or a store brand with that for that particular style. However, if you have a different brand or a different size label and you want to use it with Church Windows, you absolutely can. To create a new label, you click the button to the right of the label layout field that says New Label. And this opens up the screen where you can choose the label product and the product number. So you choose the brand that you're wanting to use. So you have Avery Standard and a whole bunch of others, and then you have literally hundreds of different label layouts to choose depending on what ones you have done in the past. I'll just choose the 5960 ones for the moment. And now, about 99% of the time, after you choose your product and style, you'll just click the finish button. But I'm going to show you this next button just so you know it's there. After you click next, it'll take you to this screen where you can adjust the label like location and everything. So this gives you a lot more control over the size of your labels. This is pretty much only really used for if you have a style of label that is not on any of the hundreds that we have pre-built. So even if you have like a unique one or a custom one, you can come in here and make it on this screen. So after you have, I'll go just click back real quick. So after you have your product style that you want, I'll just go back to the 5960. You'll click Finish. And after a second or two, that will bring up the Report Designer screen. This is the screen that allows you to change what information appears on your label layout. By default, it shows the main label and address, so it will show the Mr. and Mrs. Bob Smith, and then their address. You can see that where it says main label and address here. The actual white area that you see is the size of the label. So anything you can fit in there will print on the labels themselves when you print them. At the top of the screen, you have your standard, word processor, text processor options. You can change the font to something else. You can change the font color, that sort of thing. And when you're done, say you just wanted labels with Arial font instead of Times New Roman. When you're done editing your labels, you can just click the Save button up here, and it will name your file. It'll you see that here up at the very top. It says Avery Standard, 5960 address. So it will save your label layout with the brand and the style number. If you want to get more specific, you can click Save As, and it'll give you an option to save a name for your layout. So we can say Avery Standard 5960 Arial font, for example, and click OK and close out. And after you create a layout and save it, it will show up here in the drop-down menu. And so that's essentially how you create new labels. Say you want to edit an existing label to include different information or to change the font and that sort of thing. You just come in here and you select one from the drop-down. I'll just select the 5160 with family mailing label. So say you use the Avery 5160 labels, but you want different information than what this shows. So if we click Edit Label, that will take you back to the Report Designer screen, and it will show mailing label and address in this case. But say I want it to show that particular household's giver number above what their mailing label is. So to do that, we have to do a little bit of rearranging on this screen. So if I click on mailing label and address, you see we get the the little resize boxes around the outside. And that just means basically we can resize it and move it around. In this case, since I want to put something above it, we don't quite have enough space to put the giver number. So I'm going to drag that field down to the bottom of the detail of the label section and leaving just a little bit more of a gap up here above. Now if I want to add more fields to the label, all my available options are over here on the right side underneath data controls. You see it over here. So I have a list of different options. I have names and address, having just names on the label, things like that. Second from the bottom is giver number. So if I click and drag it over, so I'm still holding it, and I put it above mailing label and address and let go, you now see we have a second field called giver number. And this is just a field that contains what that family's giver number is. So once we have that set up how we want, we can click down here at the preview button in the bottom left to just kind of get an idea of what it will look like on our actual labels. So this just uses some fake data. So now we can see we have the first line of what their giver number is, and then we have their household information below. So, we say that looks good, the font is how we want it and everything. We can now save this. And with the Avery 5160 with family mailing label and individual, those two built-in ones can never be overwritten, because it's a default layout. So you will always have those to be able to go back to in case you mess up a label layout, or you just want to do your basic labels. Those will always be within the system. You can't save over it with a different, or with the same name with a different layout. So in this case, I'm going to put with giver number at the end of the name and click OK. And then it's now saved as that. So I can close out. And if you look at the drop down, you now see that that label we created is right there. So I can select it from the drop down. And each time you run labels, you have to tell the system how you want it, the people and the various families grouped. In this case, I'm going to do one label per giving unit, because that's going to group each set of people by their giver number if they have it. So I'm looking at my actual data here, and everybody who has a giver number is having it print, and then everybody else just has their normal stuff on there. So I can close out of that. Another option you have with the labels, I'm going to select the individual names ones here, is you can put little messages on them as well. So say you're running labels for the parents of your Sunday school kids. You can put a little message at the top that says "to the parents of," or "to whom it may concern," that sort of thing. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to just edit this label here real quick. So I move the names and address down. And over here on the right, we have this field called label. And this is the field that allows me to type in whatever information I want. So I'm going to click on that and drag that over and put that in there. And then when I put that field on there, it says, click tab in right corner to change. So if I click on that, it'll bring up this little label task window that allows me to change the text. So what I'm going to do is just put "to the parents of," and once I did that, you can see the text on it has changed. And then I'm going to click Save As. And then, just so you're descriptive of your different layouts. I'm going to put in, parents of, click OK. Let me close out. And for this one, I'm going to do one label per individual, since this particular layout is showing individual names instead of the household mailing label. So when I click print, you can see it's every one of them says to the parents of. Right. And then the last type of label people normally do is sometimes people want, say, their geographic area or their phone number or some other piece of information like that on their label. And we can do that by editing the layout like before. So I click and drag that down to resize it. And in this case, since there's so many different individual fields you have an option for, they didn't put that all on this screen. They put what's called the additional field that will allow you to put in whatever field you want on the other screen. I'll show you what I mean here in a second. So just like before with the giver number or label, I'm just going to drag that over to where it says, so it says additional field, and click Save As, and put additional field, and then OK. And then when I close out, what you'll get is any layout that has that additional field present on there, you'll get this little pop-up field showing up. You just click on that drop down, and then you'll see all the different options you have to put it on the label. So say I ran these labels, but I want people's home phones on there. So I just find in the list and select it. And I'll do one label per individual again. And then click print. And now all my labels have their names and then their phone numbers on top of that. And then from here, just like with any other report, you can go up to the printer icon and print it, making sure your labels are inserted into the printer. All right. So that is pretty much all I had for that particular topic. Does anybody have any questions on that? Let me look at the questions. I'm the only one in here today, so I didn't have anybody answering questions. Winnie asked, what is the difference between giver number and family? I'm assuming you mean between giving unit and family. The difference between the two is family will group everybody in the same household onto one label. The giving units are, say if you have a husband and wife who give separately, or they have two different giver numbers, if you do one label per giving unit, you'll get one label per each person instead of one. Barb is asking if you can add the additional field to the bottom of the label rather than the top. Yeah, absolutely. The label layouts, are flexible, as you can edit it to move them wherever you want. So what I'm going to do is Let me just say, for example, just delete that, and I can click and move names and address to the top, and grab additional field again, and just drag it up at the bottom, and there you go. It is now moved to the bottom. If I can close out, and so home phone is still selected, and then I'll click print. The only real issue you'll come across sometimes with having the additional field below is, you'll have a gap between the bottom of the mailing label, or the address section, and the number, just because the address field is made taller just in case there is more like a longer road name, or an address to like an apartment number. So you can see the gap is 2 lines on this person, where it's only really 1 line for this person. You can edit that a little bit on the edit label screen, by clicking on names and address. And when you have these resizing squares, you can take the bottom one and pull it up a little to shorten it so it's not as tall, and then you can then move the additional field up, so you can see it's not taking up as much space, so they're not the name and address column is not as tall. So if I click save and close out and click print again, you should be able to have less of a gap. Yeah, you can see there's a little bit less of a gap now for the people. You'll have to maybe adjust it a little bit here and there to make sure everything's fitting and not getting cut off, but you can absolutely have the additional field below, like the names and address. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, you guys are welcome. Glad it was helpful. Okay, I am not seeing any other questions coming in, so I'm going to be closing this here in a second. Just before I do, just letting you know that this particular webinar is being recorded, and it will be put up on our website and on our YouTube page for you to view later. If you can just go to youtube.com/churchwindows, and then it has all our videos there. I think we have over 100 different videos now that you can go through and watch. This will be the most latest one when it gets put up. It'll be put up by the end of the week. I'm not sure exactly when, but by the close of business on Friday. All right. So everybody, have a good day and have a good rest of your week. Thanks. Bye-bye.